Now in the past, we've talked about a hypothetical next-generation Chevy V8. This was their smallest displacement and their current architecture being advanced. This would be a direct N-port injected, 11.0 compression ratio twin-turbo 4.3-liter overhead valve V8 with a 10-speed auto and mild hybrid system. I think it could run 3.7 psi on 87 octane and achieve between 375 to 400 horsepower and 450 to 475 pound-feet of torque, if not 500 pound-feet of torque at 2000 RPM or lower for the standard output. The empty fuel economy I believe would be better than or equal to the 3.5-liter dual overhead cam EcoBoost F150. Towing fuel economy should improve as well. In some tests, the 3.5-liter EcoBoost gets better fuel economy than the GM overhead valve V8s, most likely because of peak torque coming in at a lower RPM and remaining flat over a broad curve. Both the twin-turbo V6 and twin-turbo V6 hybrid and Tundra have peak torque at 2,400 RPM. While towing, the engine should rev to at least the peak torque RPM because torque is basically a measurement of how much work can be done. Now, depending on the speed you're trying to go and the incline of the road, it could be higher for more horsepower, as horsepower is basically a measurement of how fast that work can be done. The higher in the RPM range, the more horsepower you have and the more fuel is used. Turbocharged engines do seem to have a positive impact on towing with more torque, a flatter torque curve, and lower peak torque, and that lower peak torque helps towing fuel economy. It would also make more efficient horsepower at higher elevations because of thinner air and pumping losses associated with naturally aspirated engines. Turbochargers force compressed air into the cylinders. This engine is downsized and turbocharged to be more efficient, while the low boost, direct N-port injection allow for a modern higher compression ratio. The current 400 horsepower with 410 pound-feet of torque, dual overhead cam 5.0-liter Coyote V8 F150 achieved 17 city and 24 highway fuel economy on a 12.0 compression ratio compared to the 400 horsepower with 500 pound-feet of torque, 3.5L EcoBoost V6 that achieved 18 city and 24 highway fuel economy on a 10.5 compression ratio. Not much of a fuel economy difference between the two, but congratulations. Then maybe you want the high output direct N-port injected, 10.5 compression ratio twin-turbo 4.3-liter overhead valve V8 with 10-speed auto and mild hybrid system. That output is on premium 91 octane or better. The more boost supplied requires more fuel but achieves more power, 450 to 475 horsepower and 550 to 600 pound-feet of torque. We're talking towing vehicles, so the block would be detuned on General Motors truck platform vehicles compared to car applications. Aggressive tuning and towing don't go together. Well over 500 horsepower is achievable for cars. Remember, this hypothetical engine is developed to replace both the 5.3-liter overhead valve V8 and 6.2-liter overhead valve V8 while competing against the 3.5-liter EcoBoost, 5.0-liter Coyote that has gotten better and better, and the upcoming twin-turbo dual overhead cam Hurricane inline 6 destined for Ram 1500 that I would like to ask you about next. This engine is not meant to go head-to-head with European luxury twin-turbo dual overhead cam V8s. That would require a dual overhead cam or a larger overhead valve block like the 5.3-liter V8. The General Motors truck platform sells a lot of full-size trucks and large SUVs. This would be one engine block with different variants for power, fuel economy, and octane differences. A full hybrid variant would probably bring over 500 horsepower in trucks and over 600 horsepower in cars. Should GM advance its small block architecture to twin turbos if these kinds of gains are possible?